That's right. Every day.
Good evening, everyone. We'll call ourselves to order. If everybody would please rise and join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We'll call our roll. I'm present. Dr. O'Neill.
Present.
Mr. Heater.
Present.
Mrs. Bales.
Present.
Mrs. Barnes-Griffin. Mr. Urban.
Present.
Mr. Lowe.
Present.
Thank you. At this point, Sarah Anglin is with us and has a presentation on East Washington Academy. So Sarah, the floor is yours. And if you would feel more comfortable speaking without your mask, I assume.
Everyone okay? I'm double vaccinated.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And Sarah, if you go behind the mic, because we are live streaming and that way people can hear you, is that okay?
Yes, I'm trying to see if I can get, can I shift this over just
Yep.
a touch to get
Yeah,
a
you can
little-
move it wherever you want to move it.
Even better.
How's that?
That's wonderful.
Great.
Yep, okay. I move around. You can tell I move around a lot during the day. It's hard to stay in one spot. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is my first year here at East Washington Academy, and so it's been such an amazing year to jump right in, full of challenges every day. So I hope with this presentation I'm able to share some highlights from this school year, but also pivot and show some clarity on directions and initiatives that I plan to implement moving into next year to improve not only the school culture, but academic achievement of the students. So I hope there's a twofold presentation that you're able to hear and we can celebrate the wonderful things, but then also to provide some clarity on some adjustments that we'll need to make moving into next year to increase that academic achievement. Wanted to start here. We have a video. I think the best way to demonstrate for you the work of our students, rigorous and interdisciplinary learning, is through a recording. And so please enjoy. This is from one of our 4th grade high ability classrooms.
This is the checkers game where grandson and granddad will bond.
I don't know where I went.
This is the kitchen.
Oh, it wasn't there a while ago.
There weren't ads when I submitted. I apologize. This is a good advertisement, though.
I'm gonna. There we
There
go.
weren't any ads previously, so I apologize.
I like the relaxing jazz.
Yeah, I don't know where these keep popping up from. Okay, let's start over.
There we go.
All right. Student profile. Well, let's try again.
So we'll be seeing an interdisciplinary lesson from one of our 4th grade high ability families, our teachers. It includes a connection to Project Lead the Way. So I wanted to also spotlight that new curriculum opportunity this summer, or that we've initiated and are implementing at full fidelity.
I apologize. I don't know what's going on here. It played just fine a while ago.
How about you go
There.
back clear to the
Here,
beginning?
I'm here.
There you go.
second and tell you about an assignment that the students in my class did, where they took the assignment that I have and they took it way beyond and turned it into their own project. I asked the students to write a persuasive essay about any topic that they wanted to. Students were allowed to choose anything from what they wanted for Christmas. Some students even wrote about asking for more money from their parents for their chores. But these students thought larger than that.
So I picked pollution because pollution is going on, and there's ways to reduce all the plastic and styrofoam that's been happening in our schools. My topic for my persuasive essay was plastic pollution because about 8 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year. I started by making persuasive essays, and then Sam and I had the idea to make a flyer to send home to everyone in the class. We also showed it to Mrs. Anglin, our principal, and she signed it. Then we got some participants. We got 8 participants, including the teacher and the principal. And then we made this Google slide that basically we would have everyone meet on, and we would discuss ideas about what we could do to help reduce pollution. And we're now trying to post up signs in the school to stop pollution.
Something that's really cool about this project is that not only was it just an assignment, the kids took all the things that we were studying in all the different parts of our day and put it into one big thing. We were studying natural resources in Project Lead the Way, and pollution and how humans impact the earth in Project Lead the Way. We were discussing activism in our Black History Month, and the kids were able to use all of that in one small little portion of our day.
So what we've learned about was about natural resources and how plastic takes up to 1,000 years to fully decompose. Styrofoam does not decompose at all, and that would just stack up over 1,000 years' time. That would be bad. We're activists because we handed out flyers, we talked to the principal and Mrs. Bueller. Activism is pretty easy to do. It is very easy, as long as you attempt. You might have some failures, but we just kept trying. I bypassed the plasticware.
The thing that makes this project stick out is that these students not only are hitting skills and standards and the things that are taught in class, it's that they are taking learning beyond the textbook, beyond the standards, and they're applying it to their lives, and they're thinking bigger than the classroom, bigger than their textbooks, bigger than what we're doing exactly in front of them, and they are applying it to what's going on in their everyday world. And I'm really excited to see what they do with this in the future, maybe even for a living. Who knows where they're going to take this? It's what makes this program that we're a part of really special in the way that we're able to allow children whose brains can think bigger than standards and skills, let them be who they are and explore those opportunities that exist out there for their future and even for what's happening right now. So I'm really excited to see all of the opportunities that we can afford these students.
All right, so that was just one snapshot of, I think, the amazing learning that's happening at East Washington Academy. A few things to highlight is just the rigor of the assignment, the multiple modalities of persuasive writing, using technology, using the speaking and listening skills, and really thinking about how to explore and understand information and appeal to a diverse audience. And so we're really, really proud of those students and wanted to make sure that I spotlighted just a couple of them. Moving on, a couple of other highlights, and I have actually Another principal, Mr. Ambler, his daughter is actually in that photo, but she is sharing her writing. So one of the initiatives that I put into place this year is a dedicated writing block, which is a part of the English language arts component. So it's a big part of our state accountability and a tested subject in iLearn. And so by creating that dedicated writing block, we're creating that opportunity for kids to not just learn the writing process starting in kindergarten, but having that authentic opportunity to share their writing with an audience. And so this is one spotlight from one of our second grade classrooms. Another focus, it's so hard to sit. I'm so used to walking around. This next photo is we spotlighted this year a new high ability curriculum for math. And it's a hands-on, interactive-based, much more rigorous math curriculum that we've implemented with fidelity in our high-ability classrooms. So we're moving beyond memorizing multiplication facts to big thinking, word problem solving. And so it's at a much accelerated and more rigorous pace. And this is one example of the hands-on math learning that was piloted and implemented this year in our high-ability classrooms. The next photo here is an example of our students doing Project Lead the Way. So we are really excited to be implementing this hands-on science curriculum in all of our subjects, in both Gen Ed and high ability classrooms, 1st through 5th grade. And so with that, here's a photo of a 2nd grade classroom in our general education space, and just shows one of the snapshots of our students experiencing the hands-on learning with Project Lead the Way that we're implementing at least 3 days a week in those 1st through 5th grade classrooms. A couple of other things that I wanted to spotlight is not just the academics, although I think that academic achievement is absolutely critical, but in addition and to supplement that is the character education that's equally important. So we've implemented what we call the All Grit, No Quit Award. And so we do iReady testing, which I'm sure you've heard of, at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. It's our formative data piece that gives us the information to know what we need to do to differentiate and meet our students' needs. More than academic achievement, I want students to learn how to persist through challenges. So every teacher at the beginning of the year, middle, and end of the year nominate one student for their All Grit, No Quit Award, which again instills, regardless of your academic achievement, it instills the values of working hard and persisting through challenges. So we're really excited to recognize those students. Additionally, we have a character theme that we focused on each month that we tie into recognition for our kids. Next month in April and in May is going to be commitment. So we tie our themes into our everyday actions. Kids have a chance to earn Wildcat cards and be recognized for exemplifying those different character traits throughout the year. So this is a snapshot of the different themes that we have covered throughout this school year by month. As I mentioned at the beginning, to me, it's not just about sharing the successes of this year, but it's pivoting to think about strategic planning moving into next year. So part of my challenge this year has been going back to our 5-year strategic plan for Muncie Community Schools and then extrapolating what that means as actionable steps here at the school level. So I wanted to just spotlight a couple of things that I'm really excited about moving into for next year as a priority. This year, our goal as a school has been at least 1 year of reading growth across all of our students. That will continue to be a priority moving into next year because I think if students can't read, it really limits their potential for their futures. So we'll be moving into next year continuing to focus on English language arts. Another piece, as you can see here, it's called Vertically Aligned Writing Maps. So what we're doing is meeting as grade level teams, and we're ensuring that we're teaching those foundational skills with measurable criteria starting in kindergarten. In other words, what do we need kids to be able to achieve by the end of kindergarten? So then what are they achieving by the end of 1st grade? So that when we backwards plan and make sure that our kids are ready for middle school, what has been the roadmap along the way, and how are we measuring our progress to see if we're on track? So part of that is teachers providing that collaboration to build that yearly scope and sequence, but also creating the measurable criteria where every quarter, so 4 times a year, we'll be having kids do a practice prompt That again is just meant to give us at-bats so that by the time kids are having to do this at a high stakes environment in 3rd grade, they've had lots of practice opportunities leading up to that. So that's something that we're in progress of developing with teacher input, and I'm really excited about building that out a little bit more moving into next year. Again, writing is one component of the English language arts state assessment piece, and that's an area that I think we could strengthen at EWEA. A couple of other things here, I'm trying to remember all of my bullet points, is we'll continue to strengthen our Project Lead the Way implementation. I think that's a great opportunity to embed reading, writing, and math skills into that hands-on science learning. Another piece is really building upon our mentor and master teacher roles to ensure that we're providing differentiated professional development to all of our teachers. So what are we doing differently to support first-year teachers in the classroom compared to a veteran teacher who's high-performing with 15 years of experience, so that we are really making sure that just like our students, we're growing and developing our teachers and our staff. So tweaking a little bit of how we support our teachers will be a priority for me moving into next year, utilizing the mentor and master teacher positions. The next piece is thinking more about culture. So when we think about discipline, I think it can be easy to just think of how we react when students might misbehave. So a couple of things that I put into place this year is the radio system. So originally what had happened, which is particularly challenging in an open concept building where the sound can carry, is if a student might have been in trouble, they might have been called over the loudspeaker, which then kind of creates a sense of embarrassment or defensiveness in front of their peers. The sound also carries, because there's not walls, into other classrooms. So every single person on staff has a radio. Different radio channels are divided for different reasons. You can call to the discipline team on one channel. You can flip to another number and reach the special education team directly. So what this means, if we need the nurse out in the recess area, the staff members out at recess simply move to the nurse channel and get directly in contact with the nurse. We're able to much more quickly and efficiently address student needs throughout the building. This is supported with discipline in a lot of ways, because instead of making a small situation big and escalating students who feel upset, we are able to de-stress the situation and use our radios, lower our voices, to keep situations much more private for our students, which I think is critically important. So we'll be continuing with that. The next piece is we've implemented what I consider the half sheets. So before a teacher calls for support for a student to be removed from the classroom, they have to complete a half sheet where they indicate the 3 interventions that they've tried in the classroom to redirect students and give them an opportunity to change their behavior before being asked for that child to be removed. Of course, there are exceptions to this. If there's an extremely escalated student or a physical situation, we want to keep kids safe. But I think putting this protocol in place has allowed us as the receiving agency to go get a student. We're able to get that half sheet and get all the information we need for what supports have been provided to the student, so we're better able to address them. So that will be continuing moving into next year as well. A couple of other just big priorities moving into next year is expanding the opportunities in our high ability program. I think it's such a hidden gem in the district that we offer a full day experience starting in kindergarten through 5th grade. A lot of schools you might get pulled out for 30 minutes, maybe once a day, maybe once a week. So this is truly exceptional. So promoting that program and being a part of the High Ability Marketing Committee has been a real joy, and I'm excited to think about how to continue to grow that program to not just students in Muncie schools, but in students outside of the district. I think it's a really exceptional opportunity. As part of that, I'll be implementing a welcome night for families in July. So I think part of the challenge is families don't understand what high ability is or what the demands of the program will entail. So I'll be creating an orientation hands-on style night with families in July with teacher involvement that I think will really help families learn how to support their students through that harder academic programming. The second piece to engage families is a parent ambassador program. So when we think about parental engagement, I think a lot about what opportunities are available to meet families wherever they might be. Someone might be able to come in and build something for our school. Another person might be able to read with a student. Somebody else might be able to contribute financially. So I've been meeting with diverse families of color. It's been extremely important for me to listen to that perspective and understand what barriers, if any, have impacted their involvement in this school. So with that, I've been working with someone, his name is John Anderson. He's one of our families who has 2 students in our high ability program. He's also a professor at Ball State. And so he has been a tremendous thought partner for me to just listen to what his experience has been and listen to feedback that we can use to make sure that our school in all of its programs is as inclusive as it can be. So with that, wanted to, I thought I put a question slide. I think I must not have done that one. Want to open up the floor if there's any feedback or questions. This is my first one, so I hope that this provided the information that you're interested in. But really tremendously excited to be here. I'm so thankful for the support that you provide both behind the scenes, and it's been a real joy to have you visit the school if you've been able to do that as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Anglin?
Yes, some more than others. It's been a little bit of a learning curve because I think previously what's happened is students just got sent to the office. So the office space got very full. And then it was also hard, I think, to understand if you don't have any information for why a student has been sent out, it's hard to know what to do with them next and how to respond. So I've gently encouraged our behavior team to always have a stack of those blank half sheets that if we go to remove a student and we don't have that half sheet, we'll gently encourage the behavior team member to watch the class for a few minutes while that teacher gets that half sheet filled out. So I think it's just reorienting that we need to be mindful of what we've done to give those chances to kids before we just simply remove them. And I think it's been great accountability for the teacher end as well. There's room to grow. I think we can certainly get better, but I think it's provided a step in the right direction. Oh, the one. Yeah. No. Just since July. It's been wonderful. It's been a year unlike any others. I think I'm just trying to make sure that I'm keeping up with learning MCS policies, and I call people a lot for questions and clarification, but I feel tremendously supported and really just thankful to be here. So it's been busy. I'm hoping that next year we can slide into maybe a little bit less daily pressure with COVID and contact tracing and all of that. But we've made it through. We haven't had to close down once as a school. And I know that's meant a lot to our families that they've been able to come since August with no school shutdowns. And so I'm really proud of that. And that's a testament of the hard work of the team and how diligently they're reinforcing all of our protocols.
Additional questions? Mark?
Just a comment. I really wanted to note the All Grit No Quit award. I like that a lot because for kids to be successful in life, that's a big component, sometimes more important than test scores and other things. And anyone can demonstrate that characteristic.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I think is really a good thing, and the character education I think is so important with where we are as a society now. So I just wanted to, I like that, but that's a focus in our schools. I really do.
Thank you. And I want to reiterate that a lot of the students who won that award were not the highest academically achieving, but really important to highlight them, especially if academics are more challenging for you, all the more opportunity to demonstrate those characteristics and be celebrated for that. So we'll be doing the All Grit No Quit Award again at the end of iReady this last window. So they get certificates and a treat. If anybody wants to stop in, you can they're very proud of their certificates when they get to take those home. I also call home for all of the winners, and they feel very excited about that. So you're welcome to come in, and we'll be looking forward to doing that again at the end of the year with iReady.
So, yeah, a bumper sticker would be neat, yeah. My child won the All Grit No Quit Award at East Washington Academy. Something like that, yeah. Mrs. Anglin, in terms of the high ability program, I know we heard from that group last meeting, right? In terms of broadening our efforts at recruiting kiddos. I'm assuming they're coordinating with you on that, and could you give us a situation report as to where you are?
Yeah, I think I'm able to join into the marketing committee. I think that was able to share out. And so I think a couple of things are really building a lot of positive momentum. I've completed probably 20 tours since March for prospective new high ability families. And so part of that, I think, has got to be word of mouth. It's also about really making sure that families have a positive experience when they come in for that tour. So there are surrounding school districts that have cut or modified their high ability programming. And so that's been a great opportunity for families looking to fill that void. And if I can really ensure they've got a really positive experience, then it's creating a real trickle of enrollments from surrounding areas just through that positive experience when families come in for that tour. So it's certainly an investment of time, but I think it's a good one to create that experience for families. Another piece that's exciting is we're building out, and by we, I don't have the technology skills to do this. Steve Spradlin put the video together, so I wanna give credit where credit is due. I would have had a very rudimentary video, but we have a really awesome flyer that we're developing. And so I think what's been a challenge is as families come in for tours and have these really wonderful experiences, giving something for them to take so that then they can go and share with others. And so we have a flyer that I think will be just a really great piece to be able to share with families, so that's out and circulating more in the community. But I feel really excited. We have a strong interest in our kindergarten testing. Over 40 students have indicated interest. And so I just think that we're going to continue to see that enrollment expand every year.
Okay.
And compared to the past, my understanding was we couldn't get enough kindergartners to fill a full class. So that just shows with the new marketing, it really is making a difference with getting families interested.
Good. Any additional questions for Mrs. Anglin? Okay. Anything you're needing from the board in terms of support, material, things that you would like for us to look at?
I just want to say, whoever voted to approve us getting walls, oh my. That is, if I could have dreamt of one thing that I think would help keep our building safe as well as more conducive to learning with the noise, that is the one thing I would have begged for. And so the fact that that project is up and running is, I'm thankful beyond words. And so.
Brad, did we vote for walls? I'm just kidding.
Maybe I should have double checked just to be sure. Someone did come through the building to start looking at things.
Mrs. Anglin, I'm just kidding you.
The walls are going to be a just tremendous. Yeah. Honestly, the open concept is a challenge in different ways, and so that is, goodness, that's the one thing I could have begged for, and very thankful and appreciative that that's in progress.
Well, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you for your leadership at EWA this year, which has been a year like no other, and very proud of the work that you've done. And please pass along to your faculty and the staff, likewise, our appreciation of just really, really Herculean efforts that have gone into educating kids this year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kwiatkowski.
Well, thank you. I wanted to take this opportunity to provide you with an update regarding the state budget that was recently approved. And so this is really a win this year for schools with our state budget. For the 21-22 school year, we'll see a 4.6% increase in funding, and for 22-23, it will be a 4.3% increase. which, is more than double what it's ever been before. There were a lot of conversations about educational savings accounts, and those moved outside the education fund. So even though they are still being funded, it's not wrapped up in the education fund, so it will be able to be monitored much more carefully. And it's also a pilot program. And so I think many people were happy to see that it moved out of being embedded with all the other items in the education fund. There will be a student learning recovery grant that is going to be funded at $150 million. The state just put out guidelines yesterday, and what we learned was for the $150 million, if a public or private school want to apply for those funds, they have to expend all their federal funds first. So we have CARES funds, ESSERS 2 and ESSERS 3. ESSERS 3 have to be expended by December of 2024. And so if you look at the timeline, these funds have to be expended before our federal funds. And so we knew that took us out of the mix of being able to apply. So we were working on that Promise Neighborhood grant that went to the U.S. Department of Ed. And so we have had conversations with the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, Ross Center, and moms. And we're going to partner and work with them to submit applications. And the applications will be for additional tutoring or summer programs, or replicating some of the 21st century learning programs like Grissom Gold or MP3. We'll expand them to a few other schools. And then we also will be working with Ball State University, and they have a number of initiatives that they're going to submit a plan for as well. And so even though we aren't going to be submitting an application, we'll make sure that our kids are going to get some great services. We've committed to helping with a couple grant writers with the groups so that when these applications come in, they'll have hopefully a good chance of being funded. And the kicker for all of this is all those applications are due May 12th. So the grants are only for 2 years. They don't want to lose out on summer opportunities. And so it's a 2-week turnaround. So that's a timeline that no one has really ever seen before. Some additional highlights for our foundation grant. So the foundation grant is the basic amount that all students in the state would receive. For 21-22, that's up 5.1%, and 22-23, it's up 4%. The complexity grant, so that's when you look at, how many homeless students you have, or how many English learners, free and reduced lunch students. So some of the different categories that may make you have a few more challenges in your schools, that was increased by $100 per student. And then for special education grants, for 21-22, it's up 5%, and then 22-23 will be up 10%. Social and emotional health programs was increased by 30%, anticipating all the needs from COVID. And then the non-English speaking program was up 18%, so that's $5 million more per fiscal year. We were glad to see that the teacher appreciation grant is still in the budget, and that's at $37.5 million each year. That's for teachers that are evaluated as effective or highly effective, and teachers tend to get those funds usually in December, which that's always a great time to receive an additional check. The learning loss, everybody recognizes, even though the Student Learning Recovery Grant is going in for 2 years, everybody recognizes that the learning loss that we are seeing there's not a short-term fix. Students were out, multiple months in the spring. Even though we were in session all year, we've had many students quarantined multiple times. And even though we've done our very best in our schools, and I cannot express my gratitude for how remarkable everybody has been, it has not been a normal year for us. And so we just will continue to address the learning loss. And lastly, with teacher pay, with all the additional state appropriations, one of the requirements, which is always a goal for us, is to look at our teacher compensation, but we must direct 45% toward teacher salaries. And so that was our plan all along, to make sure that that we want to start our teachers at the highest pay we can afford without causing any issues down the road. And so that we'll continue with that. Just a few Muncie things I want to mention. Our virtual art show is online. It's, you know, the elementaries and Dia have done a great job with, even though we can't do that in person, it's a nice show online. Andy has enrollment postcards that are ready to go and will be mailed out to the Muncie community. And those high ability flyers that Sarah mentioned, they're at the Ball State University print shop right now, and we should be getting those any day. And lastly, we're putting together, Becky's working on a big chart for us showing all the different professional development opportunities that will be available for our teachers. So we'll share that at the next board meeting. But there are going to be multiple opportunities, just like for our students with summer learning, also for our teachers to continue with having professional development opportunities.
Any questions for Dr. K?
Well, we've tapped into a few people that we'll contract with to help us, because, we have people internally, but there's a lot going on, and it takes, total dedication to write grants, and you can't be doing that with other things as well. So we've found a couple folks who are pretty good at it that we work with. I also have to say the George and Frances Ball Foundation, Kelsey and Courtney, have been a tremendous resource for us, both extremely bright and talented, and they jump in and help as well. So we're fortunate for them.
And that's for the benefit of everybody else. That's Kelsey Arrington and Courtney Zimmerman, who both do really remarkable work. Dr. Kwiatkowski, Promise Neighborhood Grant, do we have a sense when we'll hear about that?
Well, Promise Neighborhood Grant went in, and we're supposed to hear by the end of August. But this is another one I'm holding my breath on, because we had the Ball State University, Eva, Pat Clark, and Walisha worked on a community schools grant, and I gave a little bit of assistance with them too. And that was due I think at the end of March. And they were supposed to find out by the end of May. And Pat just received notice that they said, we've decided that we're going to postpone that this year, and we will be reissuing the RFP. And so please try again next year. And that's coming out of the very same office as our Promise Neighborhood Grant. So we're supposed to hear in August about the winners. I sure hope we don't get a notification like they received.
Yeah, so when you say the CARES Act, that was the first Rescue Act, correct?
Yes.
And then I think you said SARS, which is
ESSERS,
the acronym.
ESSERS too,
ESSERS.
which I can't even remember what all the
It's-
acronyms, what it all stands for.
Isn't it American Rescue Act?
Yes,
Okay.
but the ESS, ERS,
Okay. Okay. So as I understand it then, in order to tap into the $150 million set aside by the state, we would have had to exhaust all of the all of the grants from the federal government.
right, that's correct.
So we're diverting our attention to the state money to our partners, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And, as we do that with the Promise Neighborhood Grant, what we wrote in there, we had enough community partners and people are committed that even if we don't receive the grant, we're going to find ways to make all the different initiatives we put in there happen. They may not be as quick as we would hope, and they may not be at the same scale. And so that's where, even with some of the additional funds we're getting through this, it's still, is aligned to work that's already happening. And so, but you're right, though, when we get ready to write grants, we always have to look at sustainability. And that's one thing that with, we're going through staffing right now, and it would be really easy to hire a lot of people for a year or two, but then when you have to reduction in force, and then people all of a sudden have their class sizes bigger than what they were used to, then that really kills morale. So we really are trying to be smart with how we're using funds, that there will be ways we would be able to sustain it.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. Anything further?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Klotz, is there any public comment? Okay, thank you. We'll go to the consent agenda, items A through F, inclusive. Any questions concerning the items in your packets for A through F? Hearing none, would entertain a motion to approve. Been moved. There's moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're going to move to item 227. Mr. Jerome?
Thank you. Included in your board packet is the permission to pay stipends to employees for the 2020-21 school year for extra duties related to the pandemic response. Have to give a lot of credit to Church Hiddle Nantrum and Dr. K for working through the actual resolution. What it really summarizes, it means we will be able to pay $1,000 to school employees, as well as anyone who would maybe be considered part-time or hired after January 1, 2021 would receive $500 for really all their extra duties they've incurred during this particular school year. So this would be paid on the first payroll. I wrote down June 5th. The first payroll actually after the end of the school year is actually a Friday, June 4th, for those employees who would be eligible. This would come from CARES Act number 2, plus the payroll benefits also. This approximately would impact about 575 MCS employees, or those pay as needed employees. So it is truly, it's been a very unique year and a very unique response that everyone has had to pitch in and help to make this happen. So,
Any questions for Mr. Jerome?
yeah, June 4th of 2021. So that way you're paying it out to employees who are still basically with us. So even though someone may have told us they're going to retire at the end of the school year, they would still be eligible.
And with Tasha, since this is not just a stipend for everybody, it's actually for payment for extra duties. And so, part of working through to get this approved, the extra duties go through the entire school year. And that's why at the end of the school year, then we'd be able to pay them.
Any additional questions?
Move approval.
Mr. Heater has moved approval,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Irvin, and maybe a third by Mrs. Barnes-Griffin. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I want to take just a moment for the benefit of everyone here this evening, as well as those observing online, and applaud the work of Dr. Kwiatkowski on the issue of that stipend. I had at least 2 phone conversations with her where she was working through technical issues with Department of Education as they worked in determining how to pay those stipends in the manner that we've just approved. And I just take a moment and thank Leanne for not resting until we found a path. So thank you. We have a food service management company. Mr. Jerome?
Yes, thank you. A year ago at this time, we had to go through the food service rebid process. This is actually just the renewal of the Chartwell's management company. We're asking the school board permission to allow us to renew with our current food service management company, known as Chartwell's, for the 21-22 school year. We have complied with all of the process with the DOE, Department of School Nutrition, to make this happen by providing all the necessary materials for this particular renewal. We have been, as I've listed in the additional information on my board packet summary sheet, we have been very successful with the food service fund, where we actually will be reinvesting approximately over $1 million of this fund balance we've accumulated in food service back towards the food service kitchen equipment, infrastructure, and cafeteria areas, which also involves seating. And this plan also has been approved by the DOE. So also, we're still expecting to offer the free lunch for everyone, for all students, as part of the program for this next school year. So just looking for a motion to approve.
Any questions? So I noticed in the video that the students from EWA put together for us that we have those styrofoam trays. Is that what we have system-wide?
That was related to, obviously, the pandemic response, which you got to remember, you know, when we were trying to plan all this out last summer, trying to figure out how to cut down on touching, down on, and that's why they had to increase the use of the styrofoam. I mean, certainly everyone acknowledges that, you know, that's waste or that's trash.
Well,
certainly.
and they are recyclable, so
Right.
even though they look like they're styrofoam, they're recyclable trays.
Mrs. Anglin, if you want to let those students know, they put the administration on the defensive.
I'm like, oh my goodness, this was just an awesome opportunity.
Absolutely.
Well
I'm
taken.
serious. Those students brought it to my attention. I asked the question, and that's activism. And that's okay. And you saw Brad and Leanne get very
We
defensive.
did.
Very good.
The protocols because it is school every day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Balancing test.
They do feel very strongly about the plasticware.
Well, when I went to school, we just carried a bucket with our food, and just a metal bucket. So, just joking. So, if you can't have a little fun doing this on a food service contract,
Right,
I
I
mean, there's
know.
nothing more interesting. I need a motion. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Mr. Jerome, I did not see a signature page in the materials for me or anybody else that I got. Is that coming? You don't need my signature?
Are you talking about the food service?
Yes, the food service.
You don't need one,
Okay,
because that authorizes myself to sign it.
good enough.
So-
That's all I needed to
Here
know.
you go.
Permission to advertise for bids for
Yep.
the roof project.
Yes, thank you. Also, for this particular roof project for 2021, this would be entertaining a motion to accept the permission to advertise. This particular project really just involves 3 roofs at 2 school buildings, Northview Elementary and Southside Middle School. 2 of the roofs at Southside Middle School, they date back to 1989 and 85. The Northview roof, roof number 1, that is a 1988 roof, and they would be targeted for replacement here in this project. And the funding source with this is our 2014 GO bond proceeds. So this is not coming out of the ESSER funds 1, 2, or 3. Still, and this would just about wrap it up. This would just about spend down all of our 2014 GO bond proceeds.
Great.
So.
Any questions for Mr. Jerome on that issue? Hear a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Irvin? Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Dialogue of board and future recommendations for the benefit of everyone. The CEO has formed a committee to address compensation. Dr. Kay spoke briefly about the state budget and the requirements for allocation of a certain percentage of those increases to faculty compensation. So that committee will be coming together within the next several days and have a recommendation for the board, hopefully by the first meeting in May, but the second meeting in May. Is that doable from your perspective, Mr. Jerome? Second meeting?
Yeah, second meeting in May would be better
Okay.
for me. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then I saw Mrs. Kennedy over here. Welcome.
I've been around every day doing speech therapy events.
Yeah, no, here with us. And I just wanted to say to you, for faculty folks, thank you for your work this year. So. Do we have any media questions?
Do you know, before we go to that, I wanted to, may I say one
Oh,
more
yeah,
thing?
absolutely, yeah.
So Sarah mentioned ESSERS 2 is where we submitted that application, and that's where we've put in and received approval for the walls and the closing in EWA, and Brad will go through all the state procurement processes, and that's when we'll bring that to you. But I really want to acknowledge both Dia and Violet. You know, Dia already has multiple grants that she oversees, as well as our elementary principals. And you acknowledge all the amount of the different grants that are coming in. And so with, you know, ESSERS 2 was almost 10 million. ESSERS 3, she said it's just opened, and that will be 24 million, I believe. And so we'll be working to get that submitted. But then, you know, submitting it and then making sure that you follow all the right guidelines and do everything right with those grants is quite a tremendous lift. And so she is at a track meet tonight cheering for her son, but I just really wanted to acknowledge how much time and effort that she's put in that's really over and above what she normally has ever had to do.
Great, thank you. Also, Dr. Reynolds, who I visited with right before this meeting, his son was a track meet?
He's running too.
Yeah, and I said, what are you doing here? You don't have to present tonight. Go to that track meet. So you ran out of here. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Is there anything further from anyone?
Just a reminder that next May the 6th, that's next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the commencement exercises, 51st annual adult commencement.
I am attending that.
That's at Central High School.
At Central High School.
Cool.
We could have up to 34 adult ed students receive their
Good.
GEDs.
Yeah.
Say thank you. Central Prom, now they can have outside dates. I had so many inboxes from kids when kids know your child is not on school board. Can you make them change it? I'm like, I have no clout there. But then they got the word that they can bring outside friends. So they were so excited.
What I have Chris continue to say to them is, you know, we have to, all of that's been approved based on what color we're in and what level. And so I keep reminding them that, remember, we might have to shift, but we're thrilled where we are right now, and we hope we can stay there.
Okay. Anything further? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A bit.
Mr. Lowe, I will second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody.